This is Cal Ward Jr. The Incredible Shrinking Nigger is a new sci-fi film I have made, or what I have called a Poli-Sci-Fi thriller. If you consider yourself only in terms of yourself, you only diminish yourself. If you think of yourself only in terms of your race, you diminish yourself and your race. And this is the adventure that the Honorable Reverend Minister Dr.A, PhD has. The Incredible Shrinking Nigger was originally a reaction to the phony political correctiveness of the 90s, to what I felt and still feel is the figurative and literal diminishing state of the black man in American society. Whereas in most of my previous stuff, there's a social message squeezed in between the cheap gags. Then 9/11 brought on a different urgency to my work, shifting me to make April Fools in Chicago and then moving on to New York to write and shoot The Bicycle Thief of Baghdad. Somehow a political urgency to make those two immediately before coming back to the raw footage for Nigger, which turned out to be enormous a learning experience, building special effects, working with animals, finally down to composing my own music and sound.
I did not have a dream. Believe me. What I will ask you to believe, I know you will not believe. I must tell you the whole amazing story while it's still all clear in my mind. It's a fate awaiting all those in search of who they are. Don't let it happen to you. Avoid it by any means necessary.
We know everything and we have an opinion about everything, and yet we are crazy and helpless as the world falls apart around us.
African continent to understand the end. I must start at the beginning and hope the middle will take care of itself.
Africans were uprooted according to anti-slavery by Professor Dwight Lowell's, were uprooted from the continent of Africa.
This is the way I was in the beginning.
Even in the age of Obama and a flood of our knowledge of our own history, we still struggle on the lower rungs of society with homelessness and education, accidental police shootings.
The living past, living in the present. For our memories go back through our black folk of today, through the recollections of our black parents, and through the tales of slavery told by our black grandparents to the time when none of us, black or white, lived in this fertile land.
Witness against mankind.
Dr. X is that kind of commentator, author, journalist, vying for leadership of the black community. It's also common in the right-wing community and the gay community and the far-left community. But he refuses to see the common ground with others in spite of all his theory. He has no real answers for the present problems, no concrete solutions to help people. It's just all hyperbole. He can't see the hypocrisy of his own living and thinking, and so he grows figuratively and literally smaller in his own world.
I remain fortified from those who loved me. My friend, the manager, my wife. Felt that it was necessary to create tension in the mind so that individuals could rise from the bondage of myths and half-truths to the unfettered realm of creative analysis and objective appraisal.
Enough is enough.
It's been 380 years.
To create the kind of tension in society that will help men rise from the dark depths of prejudice and racism to the majestic heights of understanding and brotherhood.
Somewhere quiet. What's happening to him? Is there any way to reach him?
I've tried. He's too far away.
We used to be so close.
Indivisible.
And now?
And now?
Tensions have built too high.
Too many promises broken.
Now we've parted ways.
Separate.
But equal.
Another mind.
Another soul.
Another race.
So let him march. Let him make prayer pilgrimage to the city hall. Let him go on freedom rides and try to understand why.
Sometimes I feel I just can't take it anymore.
Sometimes I feel it's my fault.
It all started so innocently.
It's the world.
It's his mind.
It's closed in on him.
He's not the same.
I love him.
So do I. Something has come between him and me.
I came between you and him.
I have come between him and you.
I pray you be content. 'Tis but his humor. The business of state does him offense. He does chide with
Oh,
you.
good Iago, what shall I do to win my lord again? Good friend, go to him, for by this light of heaven I know not how I lost him.
Doctor!
Happily for I am black.
She
and
did
have
deceive
not
her
the
father
soft parts
marrying
of
you.
conversations that
And when she seemed to
chamberers
shake
have.
in
Or
fear
for I am
from your
declined
looks,
into the vale of
she
years.
loved you most.
Look, Mr. Tibbs.
Don't call me Mr. Tibbs!
I met Elizabeth Laidlaw when I also met Loretta Rizos. They were both performing in Xena Live in Chicago. Elizabeth was Xena, and she was hysterical. She was great at stage combat. In the spirit of Black Lagoon, she was like a big, beautiful Julie Adams type who just got the cheesy melodrama of playing Mona. Jeff Rogers I met on the set of a Christmas spot that we were shooting in Chicago, and I remembered him immediately as that perfect kind of Elliot Gould type of smart alecky leading man. And it was amazing how well they worked together. They knew each other slightly, but both were quick and fast and intuitive with dialogue and just easy to set up and shoot one take, maybe two, and then move on.
Never seen a man so divided.
We must learn to feel his pain, Abe.
A man who focuses on his own pain prevents himself from sharing the pain he can feel from others.
Abe!
It's time all races, all men on this earth unite under one big pain. A day like today, I felt he had gone too far. I felt he needed to face the reality of himself, the truth behind his mask of white lies.
Abe! What a horrible thing to say about your brother.
I wondered if you knew, if he told you, if you could sense the brotherhood we share in spite of our differences.
I've always sensed the suffering inside him.
Today I almost faced him with proof. The only photo that exists of our father.
Shh.
He must never know.
He must know the truth.
Don't be foolish. It would destroy him. The awful, unspeakable truth of who he really is. He's a sad man, but a great man. A big man. Ever since I first met him, I've been awed by the size of his intellect, the length of his perspective, the girth of his knowledge.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Dr. X's dialogue is a compilation of many of the great black writers of the last century, just as Abe's mindset and sense of self-esteem in April Fools was a garbled mishmash of Frederick Douglass and Jefferson.
Honest examination of the national life proves how far
Dr. X perceives through the writings he has ingested, but perhaps not fully understood. Like so many others I've encountered the last 10 years, artists and activists and intellectuals, abstract analysis of past history and civil disobedience with no context in the present. The black man memorizes Du Bois and Malcolm, but has no real means to apply the power of their message to solve their modern problems.
Naturally, I was confident in my ability to conceal the truth from my wife. But women have a way of noticing these things.
Of the class struggle, which is in turn the dynamic of history. The quest for the apocalyptic fusion will find optimal condition only in a classless society, the absence of classes being the sine qua non for the existence of a unitary society in which the unitary sexual image can be achieved. How am I doing, baby?
Ready when you are, CB.
What?
To the severity of my language, but is there not cause for severity?
I will be as harsh as truth and as uncompromising as justice. On this subject, I do not wish to think or speak or write with moderation. No, no. Tell a man whose house is on fire to give a moderate alarm. Tell him to moderately rescue his wife from the hands of the ravisher. Tell the mother to gradually extricate her babe from the fire into which it has fallen. But urge me not to use moderation in a cause like the present. I am in earnest. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will not retreat a single inch, and I will be heard.
To go by acquaintance and contact does not run upon him by mere chance, but must go over the paths of some kind of biography until he gets a reasonable understanding of what it actually costs of human effort to be a man. And
I had other ideas for the title. For a long time it was The Incredible Shrinking Negro, but I felt finally the pointed social message had to balance out completely with the broad comedy right down the line, including the title. I'd become weary of the political correctness of the great unspeakable word that everybody uses anyway, but no one talks about. The act of solving the issue by ignoring the issue and then 10 years later realizing the issue has only gotten worse. Nigger isn't used in the script, but it is used as, it's just a hook. It is a gimmick into the race discussion with gags. And all this time in balancing out the satirical elements, I've been encouraged by the discussions I've had with friends and coworkers, strangers on the street, who are open to a more self-reflexive, less confrontational discussion about race if it is balanced with humility and humor.
The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line, the relation of the darker to the lighter races of men in Asia and Africa, in America and the islands of the sea. It was a phase of this problem that caused the Civil War, and however much they who marched south and north in 1861 may have fixed on the technical points of union and local...
Music is a composite of electronic tones. I built instrumentals out of GarageBand. The design is based on Bernard Herrmann's score for Day the Earth Stood Still, the Baron's work on Forbidden Planet, Andromeda Strain, the concept of music being electronic tones acting as background noise as much as mood setting, sound effects as much as instrumentation. The condition was irreversible. The world enveloped me, entrapped me. But my inner rage continued, restless, undaunted. Still, there was Mona.
Honey? I'm going to the store. Do you need anything?
But while we talk of revolution, which will be an armed confrontation and long years of sustained guerrilla warfare inside this country, we must also talk of the type of world we want to live in. We must commit ourselves to a society where the total means of production are taken from the rich people and placed into the hands of the state for the welfare of all the people. This is what we mean when we say total control, and we mean that black people who have...
Creating the visual style for Nigger was as complex as the silent film grain that I created for the rally, or the Robert Burks color scheme that I made for Judy Judy. You know, learning the techniques of blue screen, shooting under studio lighting, sunlight, and shadow, not just to get a good clean image to matte, but also to fake the primitive matte work of the mid-50s, just the right amount of bleeding and edge work, the television grain, all to recreate a Twilight Zone episode structure with a left turn at the Clarence Thomas hearings. Those of you familiar with Jack Arnold's The Incredible Shrinking Man from 1957, although it begins as a typical Universal International thriller like Creature from the Black Lagoon, it ends on a rather high philosophical note. It's a brilliant science fiction film. It gets to the point that he realizes that there is no happy ending, and he is not going to get better, and he is not going to get bigger, and he continues to shrink. So the film ends with an interesting view of man's small place in an infinite universe, and all this seemed possible to translate through satire into a Rod Serling, Ernie Kovacs African-American nightmare.
November 24th, 1869. Ku Klux attacked Frank Searcy House in Madison County. One man shot. November 1869. Searcy hung by mob. Madison County at Richmond. November 4th, 1969. You tried begging your way into this society and failed. That's why I'm not what you want me to be. Trying to be white. A guy waiting to turn white, to be accepted into this white society. I intend to fight my way out of it. I am a black man. I'm going to stay black if it kills me. I'm not going to change my mind, my thoughts, my personality, till they fit some white standard of acceptability. I'm not going to let them fuck up my life anymore. You stay here and die.
Lord only knows how long I was out.
Well, the basement was the last place he could have been.
Don't tell me.
You have to face it.
I know.
He's gone.
It seems incredible to have been in love with someone who's only 7 inches.
How could a man reduce himself so?
Shrink from his wife, his friends.
Until he was nothing.
In the beginning, I was in love with him. I really was.
Oh, no one doubts that.
To be a black man is to be a shadow, a statistic.
Strange. I can almost hear his voice now.
It's being brown in a society.
What can you do? Sit here, clinging to the past, until the memory fades smaller and smaller?
His commanding presence. The echo of truth in his voice.
A man divided against his fall cannot stand himself.
He could view all men, but only through himself.
He had a true view of himself, but not that part of himself that was in all men.
He knew that all men were really one man.
Only that one man was him. All those years knowing he was destroying you, holding you from happiness.
The accusations, the hostility, the lonely days, the maddening nights.
I know.
Those games of chess with all black pieces. It was so confusing.
Maybe it's time to move on. There's a new life for you out there.
No, it couldn't be.
I can show it to you.
Eh?
You know how I felt about you all this time.
Honest, Abe?
I can make you happy, Mona.
I need some happiness now.
To be a black man is to be pissed off by the treacherous, jerry-curled coon Benny in Total Recall. To read the reviews and to realize no white critics noticed him. It's to see John Turturro in Mo Better Blues and then in Miller's Crossing and say, yo, what's the diff?
Let me take you away from all this.
Promise me you'll never leave me. or shrink to an indistinguishable size.
Clutching a gun and ready to get dumb on a Confederate soldier.
Let's get your things.
To avoid brushing against you. It's to laugh at their timidity and then want to pull out a 9mm automatic and mow down every white motherfucker on sight.
Alone. Deserted. I took solace in my books. My writings, the only world I had ever known.
Because I am the white man's son, his own, bearing his bastard birthmark on my face, I will dispute his title to the throne, forever fighting him for my rightful place. There is a searing hate within my soul, a hate that only kin can feel for kin, a hate that makes me vigorous and whole. When I does me on increasing the consciousness I carry, because I am my cruel father's child, may they pick me apart and take the useful parts, the sweet meat of my feelings, and leave the bitter bullshit rotten white parts alone. The American Negro must remake his past in order to make his future. Though it is orthodox to think of America as the one country where it is unnecessary to have a past, what is a luxury for the nation as a whole becomes a prime social necessity for the Negro. For him, a group tradition must supply compensation for persecution, and pride of race the antidote for prejudice. It's spending a lifetime sucking back rage at taxi drivers, co-workers, and salespeople. It's wearing a suit to a business meeting a white dude can take in jeans. It's recognizing that if an answering machine's missing on the job, your name will surely come up. It's standing in a police lineup knowing damn well how much one poor brother looks like another.
Our leaders are too charitable toward those politicians who have been using flowery words, not whether they eat, but what they do about it, whether they can pull it off. Because we've heard good words for hundreds of years now, and they haven't come off. Now, maybe they will. I don't know. I can't look into a man's mind and read his mind. I'm not a mind reader. But what I know is that those words have not been backed up by deeds. So we will have to judge the administration. We'll have to judge its true intentions by what it does.
If a society at peace with itself, a society that can live with its conscience, that will be a day not of the white man, not of the black man. That will be the day of man as man.
Now you know my story. I was living half slave, half free. I had me under my skin. I was proud of my race, but I learned too late that my skin is only a small part of me. So small. Because I did not know that, I was not free. Now, finally, I am free. At last, free. At last, thank God Almighty. I'm free.
Despite the time it has taken me to complete The Incredible Shrinking Nigger, I am pleased with how the end product has strayed very little from the original concept, and how its themes have only grown more pronounced over the years.
real question is not whether they mean it, but what they do about it, whether they can pull it off. Because we've heard good words for hundreds of years now, and they haven't come off. Now, maybe they've meant it. I don't know. I can't look into a man's mind and read his mind. I'm not a mind reader. But what I know is that those words have not been backed up by deeds. So we will have to judge the administration. We'll have to judge its good intentions by what it does.